Hey everybody, Corey with Natural Born Tillers here. Thanks for joining us in this most recent installment of our masterclass series in exploring sustainable food in Georgia. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to challenge ourselves in growing food in a different method than we've ever done before. We're going to do some hydroponics. This is completely out of our wheelhouse. I've never grown anything like this. Don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try. For those of you that don't know, hydroponics is a method of growing food where you replace the soil as a growing medium with a nutrient-rich water-based solution. So the idea is you put everything that the plants need inside, mixed with water, and then you run that water across the roots, and that allows the plants to take up the nutrients and grow. So rather than give you all the description of what we're doing, I feel like it's better to show rather than tell. So I'm going to give you an idea of what we're going with, and we're just going to get our hands dirty and see what happens. Before we get started, I want to give everybody kind of an overview of the materials that we're using for this project. Again, we're going bare bones as possible. This isn't going to be a beautiful piece of artwork, but it's going to be functional. So we have a 5-gallon bucket. We have a 5-foot tall, 4-inch diameter piece of PVC, and then we have a small aquarium or fountain pump, and then we have tubing. So the idea is we're going to have a reservoir of nutrient-filled water, and we're going to pump that to the top of this tower, and then it's going to trickle down, and we're going to have holes throughout this with this kind of pool noodle material that we're going to stick our plants in, and these are going to absorb the nutrients and basically keep our plants watered and constantly fed with what they need to grow. What we're using here for nutrients is just a general hydroponic mixture. Everything besides this you can buy at your local hardware store. You will have to order or find a place that sells hydroponic based nutrients. You can find ways to use water soluble fertilizers, but it involves a little bit more expertise. We also bought some grow lights. Now these are just standard LED lights, but they use the full spectrum of sunlight, so you can find them also in your local hardware store. These aren't necessary if you're growing outside. We are going to use them because it's in the middle of winter. We're going to try to grow these as fast as possible, but this is one of the more expensive things. Absent the lights, these towers with all the materials included are around $100 a piece. Now, if you were to buy these towers commercially, they're easily $800. So this is a pretty affordable way to get started. We'll see if it works. In the spirit of keeping this simple, we've just kind of marked out some spots on here that we're gonna have our holes. So I've got this 2-inch in diameter little hole bit, and then we've basically marked a spot every 4 inches all the way down to where our bucket's going to be, and then we did that on 4 different sides. So we should have a total of 44 holes. We want to grow, between close to 50 plants per tower. We're here on day 2 of our hydroponic tower project. We failed to take into account the second law of home project thermodynamics, which is of course your trips to your home improvement store are directly proportional to the complexity of your project plus 1. So we forgot that plus 1. We had to go back. We did not get a powerful enough pump. So this is a good thing. Maybe if you're doing this project, we'll save you a trip. We had 188 gallons per hour pump. I thought that was plenty. It's not. So we upgraded to this 500 gallon per hour pump, and this is plenty. So you need to be able to pump water 5 feet up, which is a lot of pressure, and you need a lot of energy to generate that. So we had to increase our spend a little bit on that pump, so it's like $56. So now you're going to be in the neighborhood to build this tower around $150. We are using 1/2-inch essentially aquarium tubing or it's fountain tubing, so you get a 20-foot roll for that. And then I wanted just to show some of the fittings we're using, and you can do it any way you want, but we basically took this 1/2-inch barb fitting to a female adapter and then a male to male adapter, and we can cut these off at any length we want to. And then we just have a very simple 1/2-inch 360 degree irrigation nozzle. And we don't want one that is a sprinkler that throws it in one direction at a time. We want something that fans out so that it throws the water against the side wall evenly. That's what we want. So we want even distribution of the water all the way down. Now that we've got our holes drilled and our pump set up, the next thing we have to do is get the plants into these holes. And so we're using pool noodles or packing. These are like a little packing strip that we have. Basically, you want something circular to fit that 2-inch diameter. I like this because it's kind of split in the top so we can wrap the plant. But what we have is we have two different types of plugs. So we have a 1-inch plant plug, and we have a 1.5-inch plant plug. This one's a little bit bigger so the plant can get bigger before we start it. So we're using this cut at a longer length, but we don't want the plant to be completely engulfed by, this is essentially just a collar to keep the plant in place. So you can see there's some extra root space. And then we're just gonna put the plant in here like this, and we're gonna have it slanted just slightly up, not too much. We don't want the water to leak out. We're gonna have this at an angle so that the plant can then have a little bit of boost and support growing vertically. Same thing with this. This is obviously a little bit shorter, closer to 1 inch. We're gonna put it in here and then just have it pointed slightly up. And hypothetically, this will grow lettuce. We're up in the greenhouse and we're ready to add our nutrient solution. We use just a basic hydroponic solution. You can find it online, you can find it in a local store. Just follow the directions. Ours asks for 2 teaspoons per gallon, so we put 10 teaspoons in each reservoir. The next important step is making sure that your pH is balanced correctly. Most plants require a more acidic pH, so they want something under 7. Lettuce specifically wants closer to 5.5 on that scale. So you can use a number of different tests, but it's really important that you get that pH balanced correctly, because if the balance is off, your plants are not going to be able to uptake any nutrients at all. Now we're going to pop in our plants. We got our little sleeves. We got our plants. We want this to be exposed right there, just a little bit. And we're just going to fill everything up. So we've got our system all loaded up. We've got 42 plants here in this small amount of space, which is really cool. You know, this would take up easily one 4x8 bed on the ground. So we're assuming this is going to grow. We have no idea. We're going to find out. Let's find out. There's some things that we're going to adjust. There's some extra dripping going on here, which I don't love, but all in all, we're really happy with these. This one's dripping a lot, so we're going to mess and fiddle around with the pressure on these. We've got our lights stationed up, and that's going to help give us some supplemental lighting. You know, we're not going to have full 8-hour days of sunlight. We're in the middle of winter, so fingers crossed, in about 20 or 30 days, we should have some lettuce. We are here in the greenhouse. It's been about 20 days that our lettuce has been growing. We'd like to do the full growing cycle, but we have a short turnaround on our video, so we wanted to do a 20-day check-in. Most lettuce matures around 40 days, and so we're about halfway through our growing process. And you can see everything's looking really good. So our lettuces have sized out quite a bit. You know, we had very small transplants that were kind of leggy. We were a little worried about how well they did. One of the cool things about hydroponics is that you get a lot of root growth because the plants are continuously searching for nutrients. This just goes to show you how much root material is needed to build this much leaf material. And something that is also important when dealing with hydroponics is to remember to change out your nutrients. So we change out our nutrients, completely cycle through everything once a week, and that enables the plant to continue to grow to be healthy. One of the interesting things about growing food is there's always small variables that can make a big difference. So we have the same tower, we have the same nutrient mix in this, but we have really different results. The only substantial difference is that these plugs were all smaller, so they're like 1-inch diameter plugs, whereas these are 1.5-inch diameter. We let these transplants get a little bit bigger before we transplanted them. This is a different medium. This is something called rock wool. This is more of like a peat-based medium. That shouldn't make a difference. But there are very few differences between this tower and this tower. The biggest one is these plants were big and ready to go, and these were somewhat underdeveloped, and I think that contributed to them not growing as fast. There are several different ways of growing food, and it's easy to get focused on one specialty over another. I know I'm guilty of this. I've always kind of turned my nose up at hydroponics and think that the soil is the end-all be-all. And while I still believe that it's really important that we build soil just as much as growing food, it was really fun to experiment with a new method of growing. Because we're so established with the relationship to the soil, I thought it would be a hard transition to growing hydroponics. I kind of see this as like a machine form of growing. But what we found out is that's really not true. You're still caring for these plants, you're still monitoring their growth. Now, am I going to switch everything over to hydroponic growing in my life? Absolutely not. But it was really interesting and eye-opening to actually do the process and see how it works. Now I have a lot fewer questions about it, and I understand why it's so popular and important. So, whenever you have a question about something, it always pays off to try it yourself, explore it. You might find something that you can use, you might not, but you're richer for the experience. The world of growing food relies on innovation. So if you have an idea, you should try it out. It may fail miserably, but you might be surprised by the results. I know we were. So I hope you plant a seed, watch it grow, share the harvest. Take care and eat well.